Today we have a crazy entitled parent story of a dad sending an insane email after 10 years of no contact. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I need help. I'm either destroying my life or doing something for my mental well-being. Not sure if this should go here, but I really need help now. I don't know what to do anymore. This will be a long one. Here it goes. I've been emotionally distant from my parents since as long as I can remember. The earliest memory being from 4th grade when we moved to a different city, and I barely bothered to tell them about anything that happened. And even if I did, it was super vague. All I talked to them about was studying and the occasional jokes or casual talk when I felt up to it. They've always immensely pressured me about getting the best grades and beating everyone and telling me I'm a star child and that I'm somehow super smart and crap. More on that later. School was a breeze up till college. A-levels, we go to uni after that. I got really good grades with minimal studying, busted my butt off and got great grades in O-levels too. The entire time I was fixated on getting A-stars and whining like a bench when I lost a couple marks. I was like those nerdy kids with nothing in their life apart from studying and video games. This perfectionism got into other aspects of my life too later on. The entire time the situation at my house wasn't exactly stable, and being super emotional as a child, it didn't work out very well. My dad had severe anger issues, screaming and punching, throwing open doors, and flipping out for literally anything. He's gotten way better now. He hasn't had an episode like that in over a year. I really appreciate him for that. Which left me shook because obviously going through that as a kid took its toll. That, combined with the fact that we were doing good financially but dad couldn't manage his money at all, meant that I would go to mom for lunch money. She would tell me to go to dad and sometimes when he was out of money mid-month. That would result in another fit of rage. So anything related to money or anything that could upset my parents I would stay clear of. I'd shut myself in my room, turned off any devices, and stopped doing anything that I thought would upset him, and pray that he wouldn't come into my room. This led to me dreading weekends because it would mean another fight between my parents or dad going berserk. I grew even more distant, barely talked unless necessary. I did sometimes because they are my parents after all. I still love them and need some emotional connection despite everything, and that's how it is till today. I avoided anything and everything that could cause that. Mom also made us adhere to severe screen time limits, an hour a day only on weekends, to the point where I used to wake up at 3 a.m. to hide and play games and pretend to be asleep when I heard her room's door opening. She took my tablet and later my phone away more times than I can count, despite doing everything she asked for and getting the best grades. I got my devices so late that I started Clash of Clans 5 years after the hype, and never got into Fortnite or anything because I had no console or PC to play with anyone. Not to say I want to play Fortnite, but it was ostracizing to say the least. This makes me have anxiety and panic attacks as soon as I hear someone coming towards my room. I immediately swipe to the home screen or Windows plus D my laptop and sit there listening. It doesn't matter who it is at this point. It's literally a physiological response. I also prefer staying alone and lock my room door a lot now. Dad has overcome his anger about 90% of the way, and I can see him trying to make things work on a daily basis. When it comes to my relationship with him, maybe I'm the jerk because he tries, and I keep pushing away at the slightest annoyance. His financial skills are still in the drain, but I don't care at this point. How much can you expect someone to change? The anger going away alone makes up for it. He still has horrible time management though, which also led to a lot of arguments between my parents, but it's the least of my concerns. For this next part, let this be known that I'm an 18-year-old guy in A-levels, college. Now, my mom on the other hand, I don't even know where to begin. She's always been after me for grades, but the difference between her and my dad is that while both go on about being the best and beating everyone and the amount of competition, dad will accept any grade I get as long as I try. Mom somehow knows that I can get the best, and if I don't, I didn't try hard enough. I mean, of course, if I spend every waking moment studying, I'll get all A's, but come on, let me live a little and have a life. She has to know where I'm going and when I'll be back, and if I change plans or go somewhere without telling her, she gets ticked off and angry that I didn't ask for her permission. She doesn't give me her car for anything except for when it's her own convenience because, well, I don't know why. Maybe she thinks I'll crash or something, I don't know. Yes, I love speed, but I'm not an idiot. I also fear my parents enough to not do anything stupid and take immensely calculative risks. This coming from an 18-year-old sounds dumb. Yes, we're supposed to be doing stupid things, but no, not me. I've always been the mature and responsible one, as everyone puts it. God, I hate myself so much for this. So yeah, I'm weird. I'm now deliberately trying stupid things to actually live life, but all that childhood conditioning doesn't help much. Now back to my mom. She expects me to ask and tell her about everything. Freak the car, I can't even walk over to my friend's house 15 minutes away without her going like, "How dare you go anywhere without telling me? You didn't even bother asking me for permission." I'm having my exams these days, and she had me sit down the other day to talk about something which turned out that she didn't like that I left the house for my exam without telling her goodbye or asking for her blessings. She's like a control freak. Then a week ago, I had my exam in 3 hours, and she asked me to go run over to the store and get her some tea bags or some crap and drop off some clothes at the dry cleaner. I was revising for an exam I had in 3 hours, and she didn't care. When I told her I'll get it done after the exam and that I'm revising right now, she had the audacity to say, "Oh please, you can at least do this for your mother. She can drive to the store herself." She expected me to ditch studying, and when I get anything lower than an A, she would make my life heck and get her tea bags. She did this twice, on 2 separate exam days after me clearly telling her why I can't. Then my parents want me back home by 11. I couldn't even go to the gym till January of this year. They think I'll hop on Trent or something. They feel like everyone is out to get me at night and that they want me home early because they can't sleep knowing something could happen to me. I have to fight so much to stay over at a friend's house late. Who cares if it's 11 p.m.? I'm at his house. You can ask his mom and he'll drop me home because they never give me their car. He's much more socially developed and pretty street smart, so they trust him more than me, which upsets me because they think I can't do anything without him, which is kind of my fault for bringing him along with me to places as a way to get around them not agreeing to me doing things alone. But now they want him to be with me anywhere they think is dangerous, especially when it involves their car. My mom more so than my dad. Reading that made me feel like a child, to be honest, but that's just it. They treat me like one. They're insanely overprotective and feel like they know what's best for me the whole time. They keep reminding me about things I already know I'm supposed to do to the point where I stop doing them to get back at them, like clearing the cat litter. Yes, it's childish, but how much am I supposed to put up with this? My mom also micromanages a lot to the point I have to tell her to shut up. Not literally, or else my dad will rip me apart. Or to tell her to leave. Speaking of feeling like a child, on multiple occasions, my parents have started arguing like children, and I'm the one who has to solve the problem. We were going to my cousin's wedding the other day and had just gotten into the car in the parking lot when she started throwing a fit that her hair is messed up and she needs her hairbrush, which she forgot in the hotel room. I told her it looks fine and to forget it, quoting the same thing both of them have told me and my brother ever since we were kids. "No one's judging you." She tells my dad to stop the car and that she isn't going. They then argued for 30 seconds, after which I told them to continue acting like children, threw open the car door, ran up to the hotel room, got the brush, came back, and then we set off. And this is just one instance. I've done this on 2 other occasions already. Last week, my mom's car was out of fuel and I had an exam the next day, so I asked her for money. She told me she doesn't have any and to ask Dad. I did what she told me to. Dad's bank account was nearly empty, so I told him to forget it and that I'll pay and he can pay me back next month. He gave me the money anyways, and that was that. An hour later, Mom called me to her room and scolded me for asking Dad for money when I somehow knew that he had close to none and that I should have paid for the fuel myself without asking them. Am I brain dead because what? You tell me to do something and then argue with me for doing what you told me to. Then when I reasoned with her, she started saying, "Yeah, you're always right, I'm the one wrong every time." So I just left with a sigh after telling her that she was being illogical. Now after all this, I'm tired of my parents and have been planning to move out ASAP because I'm losing my mind here. I have no independence at all, no matter what I do, and they need to control every aspect of my life. I'm immensely self-motivated, need autonomy, and can't do anything with people micromanaging me or telling me what to do. I wonder where I got that from. It also doesn't help that in my country, you can't work till you're 18, and the economy is so freaked that minimum wage gets you absolutely nothing. Minors can't work, you can't work part-time either, and the requirements for jobs are absurd. Now the part where I'm confused about. Yesterday morning, my mom and dad had a fight. Nothing new, I had just woken up and went to shower. By the time I got out, they were seemingly done. I was with my friend at the mechanics when my dad texted me to come back home early and that we had to talk. Apart from stressing me out, this meant one of two things. He was ticked off about something and I was freaked, or two, basically nothing of importance and that he's doing this for no apparent reason. Turned out it was three. Family reconciliation. My parents talked it out in the morning successfully and decided that we weren't doing anything as a family now and we don't communicate anymore, etc., etc. The end result was to decide on regular communication about things we don't like about each other, resolving issues, and having dinner together every day. This was a really good step in a positive direction, but here's the issues. When I tried the same, Mom didn't care, and Dad said Mom doesn't listen to her as much. Shuts him out basically. So I dropped the idea, decide nothing I do is worth it, and cemented my idea to leave home. So when I say it, you guys don't care. But now that you fought and had an epiphany, we're all suddenly a happy family again? This can't fix everything I've been through. And I cannot physically, mentally, or emotionally do certain things with you guys anymore no matter what we do. I have trust issues, I'm an emotional wreck, I have what I think is anxiety or something. I withdraw from people, and above all that, this doesn't fix things. It's a fix for sure, but what is done is done. I can't forgive that. Yes, maybe I'm the jerk here again, shutting down the idea of reconciliation, but I've had enough. I cannot and will not open up again. I cannot deal with that stuff again. It's freaked me up enough. A part of me wants to go through with it and get that connection back that I've been longing for, but anything I do now will be turned against me as it always has, and I'm not ready for more hurt. I'm confused because up until a day ago I was planning to leave, but now I can stay and have a semblance of a sorta normal family without the crappy stuff. When people say that they willingly spend time with their parents, I cannot even fathom that. Again, I get it, people aren't perfect, no family is. I know that, but when do you draw the line where you can't go back, or when enough is enough? I've told you guys about most of the issues, and while I'm no saint, I need some help regarding what to do now. Are my parents the ones to blame me for doing stuff like this? Or am I the one who's putting all of this stuff on them? Should I go through with this reconciliation thing, or stick to my plan of getting out? Maybe I'm overacting and being too sensitive or something, I don't know. Please help me with this. I never planned on posting about any of this, but after yesterday, I just lost it. So that was definitely a lot that OP was getting off their chest here, you can kind of tell. I'm definitely no expert, but I mean it sounds to me like OP's had their share, and considering the history of their parents and the way they've acted, I would have no confidence that this reconciliation plan is ever going to survive more than a week, maybe two. It's bound to just make OP get hurt again, and I think the most important thing for OP would definitely be to have some space. I mean right now it sounds like paranoia central. I'd like to know whether or not you guys think the reconciliation project is even worth attempting. That said, our next story is, my parents expect me to be a babysitter even though I moved out. I, 24-year-old female, have been moved out for a few months now. I have a younger brother, 17-year-old male. He plays a bunch of sports and also volunteers. My recent issue has been that my parents expect me to drop everything to babysit him when they want to go on vacation or have weekend plans, which is becoming more and more frequent. They give me very little notice too, expecting me to drop my weekend plans. They don't even give me a choice either. I get a, we're doing this in a few days, and I am expected to do it. I mean, I can't say no when they've already booked things or else I'm a jerk. My frustration is just the fact that they have a busy child and proceed to go on all these vacations and trips, expecting me to drop all of my plans to drive him around and stay there. The most notice I get is a few days in advance. I know I need to set boundaries, I just don't know what to do or say. My parents are very hot and cold, and I just know there's going to be anger on their side. I'm just tired of being expected to drop everything to cater to their plans when I don't even live at home anymore. Any and all advice is appreciated. So while reading this, I was like, oh, a 17-year-old brother needs a babysitter. Oh, they must have some form of disability that necessitates it. But then OP followed that up with, they play a bunch of sports and also volunteers. Does a 17-year-old who can do all of that on their own need a babysitter? I was probably barely over 13 years old when my parents started leaving me home alone unsupervised. Why does a 17-year-old need a babysitter? It's Nixter agreed with me writing, why in the world does a 17-year-old need a babysitter? He's practically an adult. Our next story is, my entitled mom steals my inheritance. Now she probably is going to prison. So this might be my last update on the mess with my mother and stepbrother, since we're finally starting the legal fights, but I finally had a good laugh. In my previous posts, I haven't said a lot about my biological father. He died when I was 1 year old, so I never really met him. I have one picture of him holding me when I was an infant. I mostly know him from the stories from his family. What I do know is he was a man of means. He had a lot of assets that he had carefully divided in his will. Not like so rich I'll never have to work type, just rich enough that I would be able to live comfortably so long as I worked and did right by my finances. I was not aware that he had made sure to leave me with anything. Neither did my half-brother Sam, his son with his first wife. I'm the daughter of an affair partner turned second wife. My understanding was that anything I inherited was wasted by my mother to buy things for her predator stepson Chris, who she prefers to me. He was my abuser growing up. In her words, daughters don't need inheritance, just marry a wealthy old man like me. Well, since my mother and Chris have been harassing me lately, we drove to my dad's lawyer to get some things we need from my dad's records for the lawsuit we're planning. He's a sweet older man, kinda looks like my dad a bit, and was my dad's best friend. When we met, he received me with a hug and told me how happy he was to finally meet with him. His wife was there too, and she also gave me a big hug and told me we needed to have dinner at their place. Once we all caught up, we found my mother had been faking receipts to get money from my trust. A lot of it. Some of it from when I was under Sam's guardianship. And she's not the executor of my trust. She had to provide receipts for anything. She's been sending receipts for me because I'm still in medical school. I finished school in 2021. Well, her meal ticket not only got torn and now she's in big trouble. Because this is fraud and basically my hands are tied about pressing charges or not, she claims me as a dependent on her taxes, so my dad's lawyer would refund her for her expenses. He basically told me there's just no way we can keep this just in civil court. He had to contact the IRS and the police. Doesn't help that she's been using my social security number for some things she shouldn't. Thank you for the people that advised me to freeze my credit. You guys saved me for sure. I probably won't be able to post for quite a while, and I'm going to be incredibly busy. I'm just mentally exhausted about how much has happened. I wouldn't have done anything about my mom using my trust if she had left me alone. I wouldn't even know about it because the trust is set for me to take over it with proof of marriage or graduating college. And since I didn't know about it, I never sent the required paperwork to take control. She could have milked it dry if she left me alone and just kept sending fake information. I'm in the process to get what's left of my trust. There's quite a bit in it and should be enough for me to get a house or condo if I mix it with my savings and still have left over to invest or do other things safely. I might wait for a while to buy anything though. I don't know how safe it would be since my mom still has my social security number. Can we just stop for a moment and point out how crazy it is that so much does rely on the social security number? A 9-digit number for social security that was never actually meant to be some form of widespread, recognized national identification. A card that from your birth falls into your parents' laps could absolutely ruin your future just because they know those 9 digits. Vegetable Cod 2340 wrote, "Honestly, I'm a little surprised she hadn't already used any of the money she already stole to pay off his student loans. OP, I can only recommend that you use some of that money to outfit your new home with the top-notch security system. Once you have access to your trust, you've cut off her money and that matters more than anything. It may tip her over the edge." Corselli90 responded and added, "Mom probably saw that trust as her meal ticket. She cares about the beloved social security, but not enough to give money she sees as hers. That's why she's demanding OP pay off his debts. OP doing it doesn't hurt her financially. That and pulling a sum that large from the trust would likely raise suspicion, and they would request verification, which would have brought her fraud to light." Our next story is, my entitled mother borrowed $11,000 from me and now won't return it since she raised me. So I used to live with my mom and dad who adopted me at birth. My dad always said I would inherit our family home after they both passed away. Well, my father passed away unexpectedly in 2021 and we'd been struggling to keep up with the bills since then. I got in a car accident in late 2022 and ended up getting a settlement check for it in June 2023. I loaned my mom a total of $11,000 for repairs to the house and bills to catch up on. I told her if we ended up selling the house and moving out together, she could keep a majority of the money since we'd be living together. but I never agreed to let her keep it if we moved out separately, since I would need the income. Since that conversation, I moved in with my boyfriend and she was staying at the house. She ended up having a stroke in October of 2023 and sold the house I was supposed to inherit and moved in with her new fiance. She's given me $4,000 back since then. Plus, her fiance paid for a couple of car maintenance and repairs, so I've also deducted that from the money she's owed me. However, she refuses to pay me back the last $5,900 as she feels like I owe her this since she raised me. I desperately need that money since I've gone back to school and I need to quit my job to focus on my studies and my health. I only have 4 months until I'm done with my classes and I can get my new job and my career. She was the one that chose to adopt me. I didn't ask for it. I don't owe her anything for raising me. That's her job as a mother. She also always tells me about how she has money and she's gonna use it, how she wants to buy a new car and how she went to Cancun for vacation and went gambling in Vegas. I honestly don't know what to do. How do I ask for the rest of my money? How do I leave on good terms with her if that's possible? What should be my next step? Also, I don't have any sort of paper trail. That's my other issue. All was verbal communication. So yeah, I think the real problem here is there is no paper trail, there is no text exchange or whatnot, there is no email. I mean, I don't know, depending on where you're at, maybe word of mouth is still a binding contract, but realistically, it's going to be costly if you're trying to go any kind of legal route, and it might be a situation where, as painful as it is, you might just have to accept you're not getting that $5,900 back and just cut them out of your life. Tell them that you're done with them unless they finally start making some effort to pay you back. Our next story is crazy entitled religious DNA donator dad sends my mom insane email after 10 years of practically no contact. As a setup to this crazy email my dad/DNA donor gave, I'll give a brief background of what he's like / how growing up was like. Long version is here. My father and mother were always religious, fundamentalist Christian. The extreme ones that hate Harry Potter and fantasy things because they come from the devil. Couldn't listen to radio, watch most things on TV, and science was wrong. My dad was the pick and choose type of Christian, whereas he was always right and God said so. He doesn't agree with divorce, says that's not what God says you can do. So when my mom left him, it wasn't real, and once she is right with God, she would go back to him, my dad. So, you know, just a little bit of an ego. A quick way to describe his parenting style aside from extreme Christian, it would be that he wanted the picture-perfect family without any of the work of making it so, and to be the best Christian helper at the church we went to. But we, the kids, never saw him, and he didn't help with our food, power, or rent situations. We had to move so much because we couldn't afford staying in the place we were at. After my mom left him, she converted to being a Christian Jew. Yes, it was odd, but by then I was done with religion. It didn't make sense, it could be changed far too easily, and if every religion said that they were the one true religion, then no matter what, everyone is wrong and we're all doomed. So I've been non-religious since turning 18, 34 now, as soon as I could no longer be forced to go to churches or reading Bibles. I've since learned that I'm bisexual and agendered. Don't care what gender I am / how I'm called, and since Christians don't typically like that, I've not bothered telling my dad about it. I know he'll go on a rant and rampage and rage at me, my mom, and my brothers. I haven't seen my DNA donor in over 9 or 10 years, and he would literally just show up for a day or so, take us out to eat and try to connect with us briefly, and then leave again. We live in the USA and he's from Canada. You can sort of see that we're doing on Facebook and what little bits we're willing to tell him directly, but we've not bothered trying to keep the communication lines open. He sent emails to my mom at the end of March, only recently discovered, concerning myself, my younger brother, 32-year-old male, and youngest brother, 26-year-old male, assigned female at birth. And it's the craziest thing I've read in a long time. Here is the direct things, names changed and altered to keep privacy. Dearest my mom, where to start? Well, I guess asking for news might be a good start. I've looked at the Facebook page for her store, and I know she is slowly recovering from the robbery. Has she shared anything with you recently about how it's been affecting her? Has she visited you lately? Does she visit on a regular basis? How well do middle brother and youngest brother get along with her? Now to the meat of this email. As I've mentioned for middle brother, I know that OP made a profession of faith at Abundant Live Assembly in probably 97 or 98. Has she kept up with the faith? I know that the first time I visited you in Virginia, she was pretty into the whole Messianic Jewish stuff, even showing her friend and I at the meal after the service how she had tassels tied to the corners of her jeans because of it. But I get the feeling she's not currently living for God. I can't pinpoint anything precise for that subjective statement. However, I do know that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Matthew 12:34, Luke 6:45. And the way she swears does concern me. I first became aware of it one time I was visiting and we went to watch a movie. She was 1 or 2 rows ahead of us, and you threw a few kernels of popcorn at her, and she called you a freakhead. I didn't say anything at the time as I didn't want to start an argument and I didn't want you to think I was questioning your parenting skills or anything like that. Then she spent a few years with no contact. I even found her on Yahoo Messenger and asked her a question I had for her. She answered the question, then told me to not try to contact her again. It was only at your mother's funerals that we spoke again. At that time, she warned me not to be surprised to hear her swear, as she apparently swears a lot, but would try to tone it down for the day. It almost sounded like she was bothered by it and maybe embarrassed that I would find out, but maybe I was imagining things. Anyway, she told me how when she plays online RPGs, the elf language consists of swearing a lot, and people were amazed at how fluent she was in the language. So of course, I am concerned about her spiritual well-being. Do you know anything about where she stands with God? Another thing she told me that day was that she had wanted to write me a letter as she had issues with the way we raised her. So she took down my email address to send it to me later. She later lost that email but took the time to look me up on Facebook, which was an unexpected surprise. I guess she really did want to renew our ties to a certain degree. In the end, she never sent me anything like what she mentioned, so I don't know what her feelings are on the subject. Did she ever mention anything to you about the way we raised her? Do you have any idea what that might have been about? One more concern I have about her is whether something happened, whether spiritually or physically, at the school she was going to when you guys were still in Montreal. At the end of the 2001-2002 school year, she'd have been saying that if they said she had not learned enough French, she wanted to continue learning. Yet, when she went to school the following fall, she came back during the very first week, wanting nothing more to do with French and couldn't wait for you guys to leave for the States. Whereas she had asked me for help with homework in the previous school year. Now that she was at a new school, a high school, and middle brother was still in the old school, an elementary school, she didn't want my help and barely put in any effort on her homework at all. She also didn't seem to like her new, male this time, teacher, so I've always wondered if something happened at that new school, whether in the physical or spiritual realm. Has she ever spoken to you about that? Do you have any idea what might have changed her outlook that radically in just a few days at her new school? I'm worried that something happened in the spiritual realm and it has never been dealt with. It may still be affecting her today on an unconscious level. Any idea? That's all I can think of for now. Thank you for your time. Love always. The whole 97-98 proclamation thing, I was 8. An 8-year-old who had just seen A Thief in the Night series about the end times and the rapture scared the crap out of me. The 2001 to 2002 thing was me discovering that I was depressed and dissociating. I hated being in a city where you had to learn the language, and if you didn't, you were looked down on and scorned. Also, there was nothing for us to do as we couldn't go out. Nothing to watch, extreme Christians, remember, and no one around our ages to hang out with where we lived. I didn't want to live there, and by the time the second year of being there, I was tired of the whole thing. I stopped doing homework and technically failed 7th grade because literally every aspect of it was in French, even the art, gym, and math. I stopped trying to talk with him and reconnect with DNA donor when I realized he didn't think women should be allowed to divorce their spouses, even if the man was abusive or if it was to help her, because they should work it out together instead. And when I realized that I did not want to associate with someone who would allow another person to be abused and hurt if their God said so. So my question, do I respond to the email with a full list of what has happened and how I've changed? If I do, this will 200% mean that he will try and convert me back, ranted my mom, ranted me, and will be 1,000% more annoying. but it would be so satisfying. Also, the emails he sent about my brothers are just as bad, though I only know what they are by paraphrasing from my mom. I think if you want to share anything about him and tell him exactly how you live your life, what you think of him, what you think of his beliefs, you're absolutely free to do that and then turn around and block him in every way. I mean, after you reply, he might want to do all that stuff OP mentioned, but if you send that, say that you're blocking them after this, you don't want to hear from them again, goodbye. I mean, really, the only thing he can do to try to get back in contact with you after that is something that would probably put him in harm's way of getting some kind of legal action. That said, obviously the easiest thing, just don't reply, block him, move on. But I get it would be so satisfying to respond. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.